There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to take it away?
So, I don't have a presentation. I feel like I can pull up some slides if we need to, but I feel like this is just, we're 2 weeks out almost from the deadline. So if folks have questions, I feel like we just kind of need to use this as a Q&A of question and answer concerns. I can run through some common questions we've had if nobody has one, but I want to kind of open the floor up for anyone that has a question. No one? So a few that we've had that we actually created with KDA, a frequently asked questions for RFSI. I'll go through some of the ones that we get the majority of the time. When asking for letters of support for the project, whom should the letter be addressed? So those letters actually need to be addressed to Kentucky RFSI Review Committee, Frankfort, Kentucky. And they can be from anyone, a person, group, entity that will benefit from the project that you are applying for. This is whether or not you're applying for equipment only or infrastructure. Either one of those, you need to make sure and have your support letters. Um, one of the things on the rubric, excuse me, for the scoring is the community support is worth 20 points. Each letter that you receive for support is worth 10 points. So those are things that you can easily check off the list of points for your application to go ahead and secure those letters. Um, uh, a lot of times when we have grants of this nature, they will limit the page numbers. They have not done that for this. I think they weren't quite sure. They didn't want to limit to anybody and be as flexible as possible for this program because it's so new. This is, brand new for KDA to put on and brand new for folks to apply for. So there is no page limit. I would not recommend 500 pages, but I would try to keep it as concise as possible. There was some confusion in the beginning. And here again, if there's questions, please just pipe up, stop me. I don't want to ramrod anything. We're very flexible here. Um, Jennifer and I are the only two that I see the smiling faces. Anne has her picture up. And we have a few other that have some logos, but put it in the chat, raise your hand, just get off mute, whatever.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
If I already have a letter of support and they made it out to KDA, do I need to go back and have it changed?
If time permits and they would be willing to redo one, I would suggest it. If not, it's not going to be thrown out because of that, I don't think, because
Okay.
it does go to it is a section of KDA.
Okay.
It's run through the Kentucky Department of Ag. Just to be proper, if you think that you could get it done, it would be more complete. But I don't think it's going to get rejected because of that by any means.
Can you repeat the who's it supposed to be addressed to?
Yes, ma'am. Um, it needs to be addressed to the Kentucky RFSI Review Committee.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. And I have this document, this frequently asked questions that I can share with Jennifer, and we can send out to everyone that's on this as well. And then go ahead, Jennifer, if you want to share my contact information as well with these folks, that's perfectly fine. They can shoot me an email at any time.
Sounds good. And if folks do want to drop an email or other contact information into the chat or direct message me, that would be great.
Okay, any other questions? All right.
I have a couple of questions. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. It's up here. So I was looking at the document that's titled our specific terms for categories.
You're breaking up a little bit. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I don't have good service.
Sarah, I can't hear you. Sorry. Are you still there with us, Sarah? Oh, I think we lost her. Oh no. Maybe she'll jump back on and she can either put it in the chat or maybe she'll have a better signal.
I hope so.
Me too. Okay.
I've gotten some questions from producers on what happens once they submit an application.
Mhm.
And if they are successful, how they receive that money, what they need to do afterwards.
Okay. So what will happen is after the application deadline, April the 5th, all of those applications will be reviewed by the specific RFSI review committee through KDA. That group will then get select who they approve. Then those actually have to go to USDA. So the funds for this program are USDA funds that are being subawarded basically. So Kentucky Department of Ag, along with all the other states, had to apply for their state funding. This is the funds that we are applying for as producers. So once KDA chooses their applicants to award, that will go on to USDA. Now, USDA has 60 days to get those turned around, or that's what they've put on themselves. So that's why in our actually frequently asked questions, we have suggested that none of the start dates happen before July 25th, because that would be that 60 days that USDA has to review those and get back. So once they approve them, everyone that is awarded will be notified, and it is actually an upfront payment. So those payments, whatever you're awarded, you will be paid the full amount. So a lot of times we deal with reimbursements when it comes to federal grants or even some state grants. You purchase what you need, send in your receipts, and then they will reimburse you. Well, in this case, what they've decided to do is you receive the funds up front, and then on the back end, you have to back it up to show that you purchased what you said you would purchase. So this can take as long or as little. Equipment only grants, probably, I would say within 6 months, most of those folks will have those receipts, have things in place so that they could share those with KDA and kind of finalize their commitment. Infrastructure grants, I'm sure will go a little bit further because of the nature of the project. But those can be up to 3 years. The projects themselves can be up to 3 years. So that's kind of how it's going to flow. As far as whether it's going to be a direct deposit or a check, I don't know. That's a question for KDA that we haven't got to yet. But that is something that that I'm sure that they will be letting you know once you do receive or awarded the grant. So hopefully that helps, Jennifer.
It does. And Sarah is now putting her questions in the chat. Can you?
I do see those. See
Okay,
those.
perfect.
Sorry, I have a little bit of a dry mouth. Okay, so couple questions that Sarah has. What percentage of match has to be cash versus in kind? Either or. It can all be in kind or all be cash, or it can be a combination of each. It doesn't have to be a certain percentage. The only place the percentages come in is if it's the infrastructure grant It's a 50% cash match unless you meet one of those specific criteria. And I can actually, I had one pulled up just a minute ago. Let me see if I can get one pulled back up here to walk you guys through what those are. And it's a self-certification on whether or not you qualify for these, for the 25% versus 50%. So those are going to be, get my notes pulled up here. I apologize, folks. Okay. So the matching funds, it's a 50% match. If you qualify for the graduated match, which would reduce it to 25%, you need to be a beginning farmer or rancher, which is 10 years or less, a veteran, so a military veteran, farmer or rancher, limited resource farmer or rancher, socially disadvantaged farmer or rancher, small disadvantaged business, women owned, which is 51%, historically underserved farmer or rancher. So if you acknowledge that you qualify under one of those areas, you can check the box that you qualify, and it reduces it to 25%. Other than that, the match itself can be totally in kind, or it can be totally cash, or it can be a combination of either, as long as it meets that percentage of the total project cost. Is labor an allowable expense? It is. Let's see. If so, is it only labor to construct infrastructure, or can be staff to carry out regular activities within the infrastructure during the grant process period? So it needs to be labor within the project. So as long as the employees are doing activities, whether it be construction, whether it be training, whether it be installing a building, as long as their activities are within the parameters of that project, the scope of work for the project, it is allowable. But you have to lay that out in the application. Who's going to do what? You have to specifically name who's going to do what, when they're going to do it, how many hours they're going to work, what they're going to get paid, those types of things. But it is allowable. Okay. Hopefully, Sarah, that answered your questions. If there's any more, just pop back on there and we'll be happy to answer those as well. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. Very good. Processing, manufacturing, etc., once facilities are constructed, does not count. Only constructing the facilities itself. So in the infrastructure project, that is the case. Yes. So once the infrastructure is the project of building what you're building, renovating what you're renovating, once that is finished, and when you sign your contract with KDA to receive the grant, because it is a contractual agreement, you will have a beginning and end date. So once you complete that project, that end date is it. You cannot use that funds for anything after that. As well as, once the construction, renovation, whatever is finished, that's the end of that project. So you are correct. That does not count.
That's David
What is-
Neville. I'm sorry. Could you talk a little bit about what, so for the equipment only grant, what might be funded? So let me just give you a couple of examples that I'm looking at.
Okay.
So an on-farm cold storage, but I'd heard on some deal where it had to be like a plug and play thing, like you just had to set the equipment and plug it into electric. But in the case of a cold storage, a walk-in cooler, for instance, that needs to come on site. Usually those are built on site, so to speak. Would something like that be included?
So here's what you could do, David. You can actually just apply for the items for the cooler, but you cannot pay for any of the installation or the building. So any of the materials, if you just wanted the actual equipment materials, you could do that. Um, that what we have been told is deciding between infrastructure and equipment is what you want paid for.
Okay,
If you want just the items paid for,
right,
that's equipment only. If
okay.
you want to pay for putting it in, putting it together, what have you, the building of something, then that's going to need to be infrastructure.
But there's some minimums on those. What's the minimum on equipment? 10,000
10,000 to 100,000 for the equipment only. Yes.
in infrastructure?
Infrastructure is 100 to, oh, you're stretching me now, David. Hold on.
But essentially,
Uh,
you have to spend at least 100,000, or
mhm.
the project has
The
to be at least
project has
100,000.
to be at least 100,000 for infrastructure. Yes.
Okay.
It goes up to 3 million.
All right. What about vehicles, special use vehicles? So a refrigerated minivan
That
for
would be
logistics,
eligible.
it would be eligible.
Yes.
And do we need to have a quote? So do I need to go to a dealer and say, okay, I want this type of van, give me a quote for it?
Yes. Everything. So both infrastructure and equipment only, you have to have quotes for each item you want paid for.
Okay. And it goes from on equipment only 10 to 100.
Correct.
And so could I'm sorry, I didn't mean to dominate this, but
You're fine.
could I apply for, say, a van that costs $40,000 and a cooler or the cooler part, the reefer or the cooler parts for another 20 to make it 60, but two different things?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
What is the match on equipment only?
There is no match on equipment only.
So it could be 100% paid.
It's 100% paid. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I better spend at least 99,000.
There you go. Way to work it. Good questions. Great questions. What
I have
else?
another question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the question that says, I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know it verbatim, but how many people do you expect this project to reach?
Are we looking at infrastructure or equipment only?
Equipment only.
Okay, let me pull it up so I have the verbiage in front of me.
What's the best way to answer that?
So when it's talking about, let me scroll down to get the right verbiage, because that verbiage in grants is important, as most of you all probably know. Let's see. So okay, so we're talking about what section is that? Hold on. Let me make sure. Thought it was right here in the performance measures.
I think it's right before that, maybe.
Estimated number of local and regional producers impacted.
Yes.
Okay.
What's a good way to answer that?
So let's take, I'm trying to think of a good example to share. Let's take who do I want to use? A facility that is putting in sorting and cleaning. So they're going to put in some equipment. They just want the equipment, and they're putting it in to sort, clean, and package apples. This may or
Okay.
may not be an actual, I'm just making that up. You're going to put that in for that farm's use, theoretically, but say there's other farmers or other orchards that don't have the capacity to do that, they could come in and use it. So how many producers in your area are looking for a place to use your equipment? Because these are things that normally don't get covered in a lot of grants. So the whole purpose is to see how many producers can we impact. So are you going to be able to impact multiple farms? Are you going to be, or maybe because you're going to be able to better, let's say, produce ice cream. Let's switch it up a little bit. We're able to produce ice cream much more efficiently. So I'm going to be able to buy milk from additional dairies because I'm going to be able to make ice cream quicker or bottle my milk quicker, more efficiently, because I'm going to have this new piece of equipment. So think about the project that you're working on, the equipment you're wanting to purchase, and are there other producers in your area that are going to benefit in some way, shape, or form from you having this new piece of equipment?
So it's
Is that
looking at more at colleagues, not like the number of customers or the
no,
number. It's
not
looking at
customers.
colleagues. Okay.
Mhm. So when you think about RFSI is what we call the middle, basically the middle section of production. Anything post-harvest, so we can't do anything before we harvest that product. Post-harvest, before the point of sale. So nothing in retail, nothing going directly to a consumer. All of these activities that are going to be funded, equipment only or infrastructure, need to deal with that middle of the road section.
Okay.
So yeah, so not talking about customers impacted, we're talking about other producers, colleagues, other farms, those types of things.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions?
We have a couple in the chat.
Oh,
You wanna
thank you.
take a look?
I changed my screen. Let me pull that back up. That's what I get. I told somebody today I need, like, I don't know, 3 more screens so that I can have everything up that I need. Okay. Let's see. Correct. Okay, I saw that. Somebody answered for me. Thanks, guys. 10 years, not 2 years. Thank you. All right, so we have quotes from a dealership or vehicle or paper ad would work. Yes. So it can be a catalog, which in this case could be an ad. It can be from a dealership. It could be from a person, that you're any form of quote saying, I will sell this to you for X. This is what you're purchasing. This is what I will take for it. So any kind of quote will work. For equipment, I'm getting a lot of web quotes. So, basically from websites, pulling off quotes from websites.
What, on equipment only, can it be used or does it have to be new?
Nope, it can be used, but it has to be usable used. So you need to make sure that it's going to be something that's functional. So just make sure that it is something that is going to, a good used vehicle, a good used piece of equipment are eligible as long as they are functional. All right, I have some unfinished structures that I'm wanting to finish into processing facilities. Can the value of the structures I already have be counted as in-kind match, or would it have to be acquired after the grant process period starts? So this would have to be after the grant process starts. So anything that you currently already have, we have to think of it this way. Any match, in-kind match, has to be something that is an eligible expense already. So we could use labor as in-kind because labor is eligible to get paid for. We can use, if we are purchasing some of the equipment that would be eligible, we can use that as cash match. If we are hiring a consultant for something, and that consultant, paying that consultant or contractor would be an eligible expense, that can be considered cash match. So anything that would be eligible to be paid for the grant, but you're going to pay for, would be considered an eligible match. Nothing beforehand. Also, you can get lines of credit. You can get other grants. So if you've applied for another grant and it's potential that you could get that can be considered your match as well. Hopefully that answers for you, Sarah. Very good. Good. Okay. Don't let me miss those, Jennifer. I'll miss those in the chat if I don't watch.
Oh, I will. I'm keeping
Good.
an eye on it.
Very good. Thank you.
Would some energy source, like either a generator or a solar project qualify?
I'd have to have a little bit more information. Because David, this is equipment cannot be a general purpose piece of equipment. So a generator could be used to generate electricity for anything.
Right.
I'm not sure about the solar because I would kind of lean the same way.
Let
Much
me,
like, go ahead.
yeah, let me set up a scenario. So I'm
Okay.
doing some aquaponics, right?
Mhm.
And part of it's going to be in a greenhouse, and I want to heat the greenhouse and run fans and air stones and all that sort of thing. So that solar would be dedicated to that particular project, particular aquaponics project.
Well, that would not qualify because it's not post-harvest. So all the projects have to be post-harvest. Anything else? Okay. A couple of other frequently asked questions we get that might help. So in the infrastructure grant, there is a critical infrastructure letter that you need to submit. It is not required for the equipment only, but if it's something that you can provide, for example, if you're doing a renovation and you're going to double your processing capacity, having a critical infrastructure letter saying, I have the ability to support this, would be good. Even if you're just purchasing the equipment for this new processing upgrade. So the critical infrastructure letter is a self-certification. It basically is you telling the review committee, I have X, Y, and Z already in place. Therefore, if I'm awarded this grant, the funds I am taking to expand, buy equipment, renovate a space, I have the ability to utilize those to the best of my ability. Um, I'm going to be able to support the funds that I receive from this grant or the project that I'm putting forward through these funds. So it is a self-certification. We do have a template. KCARD has a template that KDA has approved, so that can kind of give you a guidelines of what to look for. So if anyone needs that, I think Jennifer put my contact information. Just shoot me an email and I'd be happy to send that to you. But in all of the infrastructure grants need one. And like I said, if you've got a larger equipment ask, I would go ahead and do one for that as well. Now, if you're just purchasing a couple different things, it's not necessarily required. But I would rather be over prepared than under prepared, because they are expecting this to be a extremely competitive grant. Um, Another question we get is on the match. We talked a little bit about what's in kind, what is cash. You do have to have a verification for your match. So if you are getting a loan, if you're getting a line of credit from your bank, you need documentation within 30 days. If you are giving of your hours, so if you are providing in-kind labor, you need documentation stating, I, Kara Stewart, will be donating 40 hours or 30 hours a week at $25 an hour for how many weeks to this project, lining it all out. So you specifically state how much time you're giving. If you are giving of, let's say, you're paying the contractor, and that's going to be your match, is you're paying the contractor. You need a written agreement with the contractor stating this is what it's going to cost, and I'm going to pay for it. The grant's not going to pay for it. So those are examples of your verification that you're going to need for your in-kind match, or cash match, either one. Anything else? Those are kind of the highlights. We did talk a little bit about some vehicles. Vehicles are eligible, which is phenomenal, because majority of the time AMS grants are no vehicles, nothing with a motor. No. Motor and wheels are a no. This does allow for that. However, it has to be a specific use vehicle. So we talked much about, majority of them are going to be refrigerated trucks or freezer trucks or something specific for what you're doing. It cannot be a general purpose vehicle. Now, we have had lengthy discussions with KDA. Semi trucks are not specific, they're general purpose. Box trucks, just box trucks, not temperature controlled, are general purpose vehicles. So those types of things are not going to be eligible. I have had I've had individuals disagree with me on that, and that is your opinion. It's your application. I'm just telling you the discussion we've had with KDA. So so that's something to keep in mind as well. Oh, one other thing, I know if you guys are doing infrastructure grants, some of your documentation can get quite lengthy with all of the PDFs and all of the attachments and the quotes. They are allowing you to share a Google Drive. So if it's that way, there's not multiple emails and things don't get lost, because you can only attach so many megabytes, gigabytes, whatever it is, so much data to an email to submit. So you are going to be able to share a Google Drive with that email address of RFSI at ky.gov. So you can share that so that all of your information can stay together. That's not a norm. That's something that KDA is being super flexible about, because they know that this is kind of a new thing and they don't want to hinder anybody by those types of parameters. So anything else?
There is a question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just popped in.
Okay.
What? Is there a length of time that equipment has to be used for the requested purpose once awarded?
Not that I'm aware of. That's a great question, Ann. So the grant itself runs is a 3-year period allotment. So I have been told that there will be inspectors across the state checking, making sure folks are using the money for what they said they would use it for. So my gut feeling would be, if I were you, at least 3 years. But I don't know that I have not seen any information in that. Now, if there is concern from someone on that, let me know. I can ask. I've gotten a pretty good direct line with KDA. We've relayed a few times on questions. But the only amount of time, length of time that has been specified is that 3-year period. So I would say at least 3 years. Good question, though. Seems like there was something else I was going to say, but I've said things so many times, it's starting to run together. I will share, and I don't even know what time it is. How we doing? Oh, pretty good.
Yeah,
I
we're good.
I will share, you folks or anybody that watches the recording here, um, share your application with CFA or KCARD. Let another set of eyes look at it. I've looked at several and they're all great. But I make sure that other staff members look at it as well because fresh eyes always catch something new. Whenever I write something or even if I'm writing a proposal, I want somebody else to see it because I've seen it too many times. I had an individual today say, "Oh my heavens, I'm so embarrassed. I sent you the wrong version." So he had not submitted me it was his working version, not his final. So just have somebody else look at it. We're here to help. I know CFA and KCARD both are available, because we're 2 weeks out, but just, at least have another individual look over it. Maybe somebody outside your organization. And while I'm talking about the application itself, I have noticed on some of them that you have to make sure when you're filling out these sections, the executive summary, the purpose, all of those types of things, make sure that you're telling your story. These don't need to be one sentence answers. Think of this as an essay. Um, you're telling your story to somebody that doesn't know your operation. You need to explain to them why this is critical, that you receive these funds, that if you are awarded this grant, then you're going to be able to do this, and this, all these wonderful things, which you all are. But I want everybody to have the best chance possible. So make sure that you're telling your story in these applications and expand and brag on yourself. Now make sure it's all relevant to the project that you're applying for, but make sure that you're telling your story and that you are explaining to somebody that has no idea what you do how important this piece of equipment or this new layout or this new training or this new program is going to benefit your processing as well as other processors. So I feel like I've talked a lot, Jennifer.
Yeah, but you're the woman with the knowledge.
That's a little scary.
Bless you.
Thank you. Anything else? Everyone has their UEI number, I hope. sam.gov. That's step one if you haven't. Make sure that you go to sam.gov. If you go to the RFSI, KDA's RFSI page, there is a link to a video there that will walk you through it.
Mhm.
How long does that usually take to get?
So if David, all you really need is the UEI. You don't have to have an expiration date for this. So it should be within the time you're applying. Now, if you have to submit additional documentation, which I've had a few folks have to do, it could be a couple days. But majority of folks that get on there and apply, they'll have it within an hour. Because as you go through the process, will award you your number. What it's doing is they're matching up the information you give them with information that they can find to make sure you're who you say you are. So as long as your name and your address and when you started your business, if that's what you're putting in, all kind of meshes, typically you'll get it right then. But for RFSI, you just have to have the alphanumeric 13-digit number, letter number, not the expiration date. So it shortens up the process a little bit. Anything else? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if I will hang out here just for a few more minutes if anybody has any questions. Any of the information we talked about, any of the examples, either the support letters, the critical infrastructure letter, any of those types of things, just reach out. KCARD.info, you can find my information on there as well. But I think several of you all have put, several of you already know how to get in touch with us. Looks like we had a few. Oh, great. So we already had Kelly. Thank you. She posted the Q&A already. Very good. And thank you, Jennifer. There is my email address.
I'm gonna pop it in one more time so that folks don't have to go back to the beginning of the chat
Awesome. Thank you.
if you need it.
Okay. Well, if anything should come up later, just let us know. Believe it or not, still have questions that I hadn't had asked before. So we'll have more of them. We'll have more of them. Like I told somebody the other day, I've got KDA on speed email, and they've been really good at getting back. So if it's unusual, I can come up with it. So we just want to make sure everybody's questions, no matter how off the wall they feel it is, gets answered before submission. So, because it does take time. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to put these together, and we want to make sure that everybody puts their best foot forward and has their best chance.
Is beef products included or no?
No.
There is excluded, right?
Yeah. So meat and poultry are excluded. Now, egg production is not. So it's just meat birds that are excluded. So
what about fish?
Fish is fine except for wild caught. No wild caught fish.
Okay.
Thank you, Anne. I just saw that. Thank you. All right. And if you guys would like to see, they do have a rubric so you can actually see the scoring. Let me see if I can make this work, Jennifer. Oh, I don't know if it's going to work. Maybe, maybe not. No, that didn't work. Actually, on that frequently asked questions that Kelly posted in the top, the very bottom, it has a link to that rubric. So you guys can pull it up and see how the points are awarded. And it's the same for either equipment or infrastructure. So. All right.
We appreciate y'all joining us this evening.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And good luck.
Yes, exactly. And thank you, CFA, for hosting. We appreciate that.
You are most welcome. Yeah.
All right. Have a good night, folks.